Hi, welcome. So glad that you decided to join this amazing day. Well, my name is Beth Lang. I am a sales director and I live in Concordia, Missouri, a small rural town outside of Kansas City, Missouri. But I didn't start here. I started my business in Farmington, Michigan, a suburb outside of Detroit. And when I began my business, I think the smartest thing I did was to really believe it was a gift that had been given me, a surprise gift, and that all of the things that I had was going to be given from my director were gifts and they were called skills. I didn't know how to build a business. I didn't know how to meet people. I didn't know how to do anything. And so I was committed to learning the skills. Even though I didn't have a lot of commitment to what I was going to do long term with Mary Kay, I had no big visions, but I thought, you know what, it would be smart for me to learn some skills. And one of the first skills I remember feeling that was going to be hard was meeting people that I didn't know yet. Like how do you do that? How do you do that without feeling pushy and obnoxious? So I learned this skill that served me well in Farmington, Michigan, and for sure served me well when I ended up in this small rural town in Missouri. So the skill that I learned was called passing out presents. And it was simply this: when you were interacting with anyone that you didn't know, maybe it was a mom at a dance rehearsal, recital thing, and you're waiting for your girls to get done with dance, or you're at a sporting event, or you're in the grocery store, or you're at a clothing store and you're both looking at the same clothes, you can pass out a present. And this is simply what you do. I don't do fancy schmancy. I have a small little bag that I carry samples or gifts with me everywhere I go. I like to give options. And so in my little pack, I will have sometimes some skincare samples and some color samples. In this pack, I have a charcoal mask or a moisturizing mask. And so I will simply do this. My first time I did this, I was so nervous. And this is what it was. It was with a mom named Julie. We were waiting in the waiting room for our girls to finish up dance practice. And I said, Julie, has anyone given you a present today? And she said, no, Beth, nobody's given me a present today. I'm like, okay, well, I have some presents. I am just started my Mary Kay business and I get to pass out presents to people. So tell me about your skin, dry or oily? And I ended up giving her a sample. Well, in the course of that conversation, I then said, you know what? I actually have to practice teaching people how to wash their face. Would you be willing to be a practice face for me? And she said, sure, that sounds fun. And she was my first, to this day, my first non-friend that became a Mary Kay customer. And it started by passing out a gift. So I have done this in the grocery store. I have done this in a gazillion different places. The other thing that I bring along with me is some kind of candy that always warms it up a little bit. So I will do this when I'm checking into the doctor's office and they're taking my information, and I will say, hey, has anybody given you guys any presents today? All the ladies that are behind there. And I hold out my presents, I hold out my candy, and they're like, give it to me, give it to me. So this is how I met people outside of my circle, out and about. And like I said, it felt scary, but I was determined. I wanted to win. I wanted to know that I could do this. I wasn't being asked to do brain surgery. I was just asked to get a teensy bit uncomfortable and pass out gifts. Well, this served me well 13 years into my business when we unexpectedly had a move from Michigan, suburban Michigan, where I could pop into Targets 5 minutes from me all the time, to rural Missouri. And at this point, we had made the decision that Mary Kay was a major source of income for our family. It wasn't a hobby, it wasn't a side hustle. It was paying our mortgage, it was paying for our kids to go to private school. Now my kids were in college when we made this move. My daughter got married, all the things. Mary Kay had to work. And so we moved to this small rural town, and I thought, time to start passing out presents again. And I took my youngest daughter to a sports physical, and we walk into the doctor's office, and I stand at the counter and check her in. And then I say, has anybody given you a present today? And she said, no, they haven't. And I said, tell me about your skin, dry or oily? And she told me, and I made a suggestion and handed her a sample. And of course, some chocolate. Well, once these new people that I met said, sure, I would love to have you come share a little bit and teach me something about my skin, I then would invite them to invite friends. And the month that I moved to Concordia, Missouri was July of 2016. In August of 2016, I had put product on 26 faces that I had no contact with. I knew Zero people when we moved here. Not one soul did I meet. So from those people, then I had to learn, how am I going to meet more people? How am I going to meet more people? Of course, I kept passing out presents, but I also knew when I had this captive audience, all of those people had people. And so at those parties, again, I'd have a present. And it was similar to what I pass out when I am giving presents out and about. It would be a microdermabrasion sample or a facial peel sample with a little bow on it. And I would hold it up in front of the guests that were sitting around the table. And I would say, oh my gosh, we're going to have so much fun today. We're going to learn about skin. You're going to get to try it, actually put it on your face. You're going to leave here and feel amazing. We're going to chat one-on-one at the end so I can answer any more questions. And you're going to get to take home all of this stuff that makes you feel so good. You get to use it tonight. How great is that? And we're going to play a game. Who's competitive? And they usually point to a couple of people. And this is how the game goes. It is simply called the follow-up game. And I take my little sample wrapped in a bow so it looks cute. It takes 2 seconds to put together, put a little bow on it. And I say, okay, today we're not going to try this particular product at the class, but somebody's going to get to take it home tonight. Who's it going to be? The way that we're going to know who gets to take it home is from a game I call the follow-up game. So today we're going to talk about skincare, but we're not going to have time to cover a bunch of stuff that I can teach you that you might want to learn, like color, like how to apply blush, where to put eyeshadow on your eye shape, all the things, maybe some other types of more advanced skincare. So to remind you that you all get what we call a second appointment or a follow-up appointment, we're going to play the follow-up game. So I'm going to start here with Julie to my right, and I'm going to hand her this little present, this gift. And every time I say the word follow-up, it's going to get passed to the person to their right. They're going to pass it around the circle, and wherever it lands at the end, they get to take it home. So my goal during the party is that I am saying the phrase follow-up at least 7 times. So it's in their brain. Because what will happen at the end of the party, when the gift lands with somebody, you make a gigantic deal. Oh my gosh, Sherry gets to go home and she can add this to whatever else she takes for her that she fell in love with today. And she gets to use this tonight. It's so fun. Sherry, can't wait to find out what you think. They've all heard follow up 7 times. So then when I am meeting with them one-on-one for the individual close, one of the questions I have my date book. I use a paper date book that I have already blocked off times that they can book their follow-up. I know when it's going to happen. I just say, okay, Sherry, let's talk about when we're going to do your follow-up. These are the dates that I have available, weekend or during the week. And we pick a date because she's heard follow-up so many times. And once we pick that date, then I say, okay, Sherry, you can invite a few friends to join you at this follow-up appointment. And you can actually earn some stuff for free. How cool is that? So moving to a new town, I needed the skill of meeting people. Then I also needed the skill of knowing, how do I meet these people's people? So the gift. Mary Kay is a gift. You have a gift to give. And simply in your brain, in your mindset, going every day, I am so excited to give out gifts to people and see what unfolds when you take 20 seconds of courage to invite people to the gift that you have for them. Congratulations on being here today. I can't wait to hear about the ways and the people that you meet because of the gifts that you give. Have a great day.